Hey, what's up? So today we have a whole lot of projects. I'm not filming that one though, because that's not filmable. But we have a project here that I've worked on before, and apparently I need to work on again. I don't remember how long ago it's been, because how I release the videos is I usually film a lot, put them on my computer, upload them. Over the course of time, I slowly release them, usually every other day, maybe sometimes daily if it's on the weekend. But because of my real work schedule, I only have a certain amount of days I can film. That's usually called weekends and an extra day off that I have throughout the week. So I film a lot in one day, and I just edit them. So I probably released this video, I want to say like early May, maybe June, I don't know, it was a couple months ago. But I probably actually worked on this late March, early April. And since then, the pull cord will not retract. And he said that it was running good, and then it just kind of stopped over the course of time, just kind of got a little worse. So I'm pretty sure the air filter's bad. We are going to check that, but I asked them, how much do you use this machine? Because it's a professionally used machine. And he said that they've been using it probably at least 1 or 2 jobs a week, and they do not use water, so I would imagine the air filter is plugged up. And we're going to take a look at that right now. And I have a pretty good idea what's happening with this pull cord. Because they don't use an air filter, or excuse me, water, you get a whole lot of dust in the air. That air gets all over. Like I explained before, these types of machines get a special type of dirty, and when that happens, the recoil is kind of exposed and it gets dirty. I'm hoping that's what it is. I'm hoping it's nothing fatal, because it could just be stuck. I don't think so, because usually the handle would at least retract, and it's not even retracting. So I'm assuming it has at least majority of the problems in the recoil, but we'll get that to a later point. I want to take a look at that filter. Let's see what we have here. If I remember correctly, this is pretty easy to take off. There's the plug. Well, I see the air filter, and it's a little full, but I also need to blow out some of these screws, because like I said, special type of dirty. I don't want to put a screwdriver in there and not have a bite and have a bigger problem by just rounding off the tops of the screws. Sound warning. So that's the pre-filter. Huh. Well, that is completely not expected whatsoever. That's the filter I put in there. Huh. Okay, well, we might have more of a problem, unfortunately. Let's take a look at the plug. Maybe the plug is the eyes of the engine. Dry. Doesn't look like it's overly rich or lean, for that matter. I'm gonna put this in because there's a chance that crap can get in the bottom of it. So let's take off that recoil. So I want to take this as an opportunity to explain something. I sometimes will kind of, I don't want to say pick out, but on certain people that don't necessarily make the wisest of decisions. But people I know that run this, I know most of them, they're pretty pretty knowledgeable on it. Having said that, you know, I want you to go into a junk drawer or wherever you keep an actual pencil, not a pen, but an actual pencil you have to sharpen. I want you to look at the dull end, which should be the end that is not the writing end. It could be both, who knows, I don't know what your pencil looks like, but that pink thing on the end of it's an eraser. Everyone makes mistakes, that's why they put erasers there. So I say that because sometimes people will put the wrong fuel by mistake. Maybe they thought they put oil in it. It's Monday, or even worse, Friday, and they're at the gas station. They're either thinking about the weekend or they're thinking about the previous weekend, and they completely forgot to actually mix in the oil. But they fill up their tank, put it in the back of their trailer or pickup or whatever, and then they go about their business, and then they bring to me a trailer full of 2-cycle equipment, not knowing what happened to all of it. I'm hoping that's not the case. Well, that's not good. That's what it's supposed to do. That's what this is doing. And look what happened to that. Did it break it? I think it did break it. It did break it. Yeah, there's pieces coming off of it now. Yeah, that's not healthy. So we are going to need a new recoil cover, at the very least. The plug is out, or excuse me, the cable is not connected. It really doesn't feel like a whole lot of compression though. This is on? Oh, it is on. Okay. Still not a whole lot of compression on it. There's a lot more though. Ow. So there's at least some. The blade is turning, you can't see that, so I'm thinking some of the weight of the blade is helping to me pull on it. How not fixable is this? I definitely think the spring is broken. You might have to wait a bit. I'm gonna do a little research on how much that is. Good news is I was able to find it pretty easily. They have one that was actually made by Makita, and then they have one made by Stens, and oddly enough, the one that is made by Makita, when reading some of the reviews on people who have bought it, say it's not as good. Oddly enough, it breaks a lot. Well, there we go. The Stens, however, though, appears to have very good reviews. It's like 4.5 stars out of 5. And when looking at some of the other websites, not just Amazon, it's more or less the same. So what's happening here? I do believe the spring is broken. Where's that spring go? Oh, it goes on this little section. And then the part that's broken is the one that connects to that folds over right here. So let's see here. What happened here? I'm thinking. Oh, and the throttle wasn't open all the way, or was open. Was it choke on? I don't know. Either way, it just got insanely loud, but the spring gave out, and this was not retracting. Probably hit the recoil mechanism here and here. Just caused all kinds of crap. I mean, right here is broken. You can tell right here that there was another piece that was connected to that screw. Probably something right there, and maybe not right there. So a lot of carnage occurred at the same time. The problem is, how do you get this off? I really don't want to have to take that recoil off, but how will this come off? Because that spring is definitely broken. It's at least, it's only like one loop around and the end of it is completely gone. So I'm thinking it probably needs at least 2 loops. Let's look at the other one. Yeah, it needs at least 2 loops, so we're missing about half of the spring. Wondering if we take it off from the back, if we can unscrew it. So what's holding it on there? Well, I'm going to take the plug out, and then I'm going to put in a piston stop, and we will lock up the piston, and we'll try to take off the flywheel. The piston stop, it has a round, soft, well, hard, but not pointed edge to it. And when you put it in through the plug hole, it's longer than the spark plug, at least I hope it will be. And when you go to loosen the nut off, which could be cross-threaded, or not cross-threaded, but reverse thread, or it's not long enough at all, or I just didn't push it in far enough. That's also a good thing to do. There we go. Stops. It gives us something to kind of give us a little benefit. Okay. Yeah, it's usually the clutch on the other side that is the reverse thread, just because they don't want that to be coming off. And I'm going to get something to get that flywheel off. So flywheels are held on by like a press fit almost. There's a taper, and we have to kind of break it off. There's a seal puller is the only thing I could find that's small enough without having to take off a whole bunch of stuff. Let's see how well this goes. There we go. But usually you can take like a screwdriver or something and apply pressure to the back side of it. Sorry for the noise. And when you either take a nice hammer, if you want to go all barbaric on it, or if you take, you know, a tool like that, the air hammer, it will put like a jolt on it and pop it right off. Unless the flywheel key is broken, it's usually not too bad. Well, that's not good. How do they expect you to take that off? That's very odd. We might just see if we can find a spring material, like off a different spring, and try to make one. So I blew the back off, and it's pretty much why I didn't want to happen. I figured it was either screwed on, which it was hopeful for me, or pressed in, and I have a few, as we can tell, it's pressed in. Lo and behold, I also believe I loaned out my myelin blank, the tool they usually use to pound on. Punch, there we go, punch set. So I'm a little worried I'm going to damage some of the fins. I'm going to go pretty gentle with that, and you're probably going to be a little shaky, so beware, and it's going to be a little loud. Let's see if we can get at least some movement. Yeah, that looks like no movement. Oh yeah, let's try a little bit more, but it's really looking doubtful. So I'm at that point where I don't want to risk breaking it and have to buy a new flywheel. So I'm not going to. I'm going to try to do this while on there. I mean, you could add heat to it, and I mean, aluminum will expand, but I would rather not go down a potential avenue of problems. So I'm thinking if I can make a semi-round spring, maybe even from this one. They feel very similar. This is a old spring off of a Briggs & Stratton 5 horsepower carburetor pump. So let's look at this other one. It needs a long straight piece and then another long piece with like a hook on it. So I don't know if this is wound the right way though. No, it is. How could it be rounded the wrong way, you know? Sometimes the thoughts that go through my head, I should just keep to myself. There's a saying that I like to bring up from time to time. That's just, there's very few things in this world that I regret not saying. But there's a whole lot of stuff that I do regret saying. So when the time comes, I would much rather not say something, because it's a whole lot easier to deal with than saying something. I feel like more people need to realize that. But that's just my 2 cents. I could be wrong. Okay, so now we have that. I'm going to bend this up to make a hook. Approximately where though? Nowhere near where I had it. I may need it a lot further in. Okay, I might cut off some of the excess. The problem with doing this is I don't know the tensile strength of that spring, so I just had to kind of guess. And when I was looking at it, I actually found this old one. I'm like, well, that's very, very similar. Why not give it a try? You know? Because technically, it would be bad news if, but how am I supposed to get around there? So go the other way. Probably not going to be able to. I'd probably have to take off the whole thing. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to have to do. Oh, no, there it goes. Okay, so that piece goes right there. This, I think, if we kind of coil around, we'll put some pressure on it. It will be too much pressure, that's the thing. Or should we just buy a new one? Probably. In fact, that's probably what I will be doing, but why not give this a try, you know? That's not even where it should be anyway. So I have a older spring that was right here that was actually from, I think, a Honda, and the other end had broken, and other work had to be done, and I also got another linkage just to go along with it, and the extra linkage came with a good spring, so I've always kept this one in case I need it. Well, I decided to try that one because it's much thinner. It actually works, and maybe it's biased on my end, but it feels pretty good. It's not too tight. Feels pretty normal compared to the other one. So I'm hoping that's okay. So I'm going to put this back on and give it a try. I tried looking up the actual part, and they don't really come separately. I was able to find the part number, but actually trying to find one that would be here that's not within, I think the earliest, I mean, from perspective, this is the beginning of September. I think the other one was November 18th or 28th. No, it must have been the 18th. I'll have to look again, but it was pretty far away, so you know it would have to be on a long boat over, and that's just something I can't wait for. So we'll try this. I do have a recoil coming, so we'll go ahead and give it a pull and see what happens when the recoil gets here. It's been a couple days later, and mail has delivered a new gift for us. Now, like I said, I don't know if the engine's good, but this we can, well, let's put it this way. Normal people wouldn't be buying stuff like this with the expectation that they don't know what's going on. You know, maybe you would try something else, you know, whatever. I don't really mind doing that because A, this wasn't all that expensive. B, I probably see 3 to 4 Makitas of this type a year, and I want to say I've had to buy this same part 2 or 3 times. So once I buy something multiple times, it really kind of erases the fear in my mind of I'm never going to use it again. So this is a Stens part. I don't know if you want to read it, but it's a part number 150383. Like I said, I've looked this up a couple times, and the OEM one always has the same review of saying that it just has a really poor quality part, keeps breaking, hence the reason why we're having to take this apart. And not only does it come with its own screws, but it's complete. It even has its own handle and pull cord and all the everything you need. So it's literally just a bolt on. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bolt it on, and then we're going to prime it and see if the engine runs. And here's something I wanted to bring up too. When I don't know if I ever explained what a piston stop is, but this is one I use for 2-cycle equipment. In here is the threading for a spark plug, and this is much longer than the spark plug. In fact, I think it's over here somewhere. Here we go. So imagine the threading ends like right there on both. Oh, you can't see it, can you? Look how much longer it is, and it's rounded. That's important. That rounded piece is going to make it a whole lot less damaging to the piston. But when you do first spin it over with your hand until it stops. And if you're going to use an impact or something afterwards, make sure that the piston is firmly set on this. That way you're not ramming it into, you know, a fairly hard piece of metal. So we're going to put it on, make sure it just screws into place, and pull the handle a little bit to kind of make sure that it's firmly planted. That way those little dogs that I explained earlier are properly seated. Okay, that one's having a hard time. There's always one screw that gives you a hard time. Always one. Of course. Well, let's do the others, see what happens. That one's fine. That one's fine. This one is being a pain. You probably can't see it a lot, but there we go. Because this is not the OEM one, the fitting is just a tad small. So you do kind of have to be a little persuasive. And that's just because there's a lip on the outside. So the reason why you're looking outside right now is this. I've had the part for this for probably a good 3 or 4 days, but for the last 3 or 4 days I've been making that cart that you see outside. I'm not going to explain what it is, except for it's a friend of mine's, and with their approval I was going to record it, but I decided not to because I didn't get it ahead of time. And well, to be honest, this is the first one. There's a whole lot of head scratching that went into there, so, but there might be more. My question is to you: if I do more of this during the winter time, because the small engine stuff stops, is welding / fabrication something that would be of interest to anyone that watches my videos? If it is, leave a comment below, and who knows, maybe I'll have a different section, or maybe just a different channel altogether. I'm not sure yet. So we have it all done. Let's put on. I don't remember if this has like a primer bulb. I do not think so. No, I do not believe it does. The handle's gonna... No. Somewhere there we should be able to see where the choke is. Well, let's just assume that's the choke. Turn it to full throttle. Let's see what happens. Pull this out, or push it in. Do we have fuel? I thought we did. Guess I didn't really check. We do have fuel. Okay. Oh, that's right there. Yeah, choke is up. That's where we want it. Let's put that back, see what happens. That's not good. Take the choke off. Go to on. Let me get some fuel. That's right here. Maybe a little more. Thing's stuck, but let's see if that helps. Well, that's good. Let me put a little more in there. Probably 2 squirts of fuel. Try it again. Before I do anything, I took a pick here and take off the dust, but it's fairly clean. I want to see if I can find the fuel line, because I don't really see it. I don't remember how the fuel line works on this machine. I might just have to take off the cover. Does this fuel line work? Oh, I think I got something. Yeah, I do. Okay. Well, that's not horrible. While we have it out, though, let's see here. I have one that's very similar to that one, but I'm not really a fan of them. I do like these though. Might see if I can do that, or I have the larger version of that one. The fuel line itself feels pretty decent. If I remember correctly, I think I might have replaced that fuel line a year or 2 ago. And boy, did I do it well. Might just have to cut it off. A little cut off isn't going to be a problem. Just want to make sure you hold it. Yeah, that one works. That one's heavier. That's why I like it better. And it's easier to see, which is always an improvement. So what we're going to do is I'm going to adjust the carb, which I think is actually on your side. Yes, it is. I do not see I don't know, a whole lot of crap comes with that, like the choke lever and everything comes with that. Let's see, how does it? Looks like it's just 2 flathead screws. The one that's closest to the throat is usually is always the idle. So we have 1 3/4. Let us turn that to 2. So that steel's right in this angle here. I know this isn't a steel, but don't tell anyone. This screwdriver, however, is very useful. It's a 000-890-2300. Be surprised how often I use it. That's not even 1. It's like 3/4. So let's do that. Let's do 1. And if it starts and runs poorly, we know we just have a tuning problem. If it doesn't start at all, then we have a carb problem and we have to dig into it. We have it ready. Let's put the choke on. Fuel line is submerged. Fuel tank is full. Well, full-ish. Maybe more suction if that's off. Okay. There's not a whole lot of compression. That's my worry, though. But it does run. I have to manually reset this plunger on this thing. Full throttle. Decisions. There's a problem. See this like little sludgy stuff? It was all over the plug too. I mean, I didn't necessarily torque it down all the way, but let's get a compression gauge. What you're looking at is a compression gauge. I'm not really a fan of this one because there's a multitude of reasons, but it will always put us in the right direction. The main reason I don't like is because you're having to measure compression with a long tube, and when an engine's only 50 or 60 cc's to begin with, it's a lot of displacement to put in that tube. This is harder to do than I thought. I mean, we're at 90. Let me give this a pull on the ground when you're not bound to fall over, and we'll see what it shows. We're at 120 after about 6 or 7 pulls with it on full throttle, which is how you should do it. That's not bad. It's lower. I mean, you can tell by like the green red little area on there. It is on the lower end, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. There is a dry compression test and a wet compression test. This one might have been considered a wet. I did do it, but there was something in there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of marble, okay, so you can see a little bit more, and put it down the plug hole, ideally with the piston on its way up. There we go. So we can block the exhaust port, or excuse me, the intake port. It's gonna go down in there anyway, but now with a clean towel, let's fold this and give it a good pull. Maybe hold it. Whoa there, calm yourself. It's a little dirty, but it's to be expected. Let's try it again. See what happens. Now, the plug was not all the way in, and we did see a little spillage in there, so maybe some of the compression was coming out. I thought I had put it in there fairly reasonably tight, but I very well could have been wrong. So that is tight now. Let's try this again. I dumped the fuel out and it looks fine. So I don't think we have a fuel problem. Oh yes, that's right. These little clips are in the way. Taking this off is never fun. There we go. Okay, so we have a couple. A couple screws we need to dislodge. Just T25 that mount the carburetor to the boot, I believe. Now, the carb actually slides. Maybe I can get you a better viewpoint. Probably not a whole lot better, but at least it's better. This whole thing is connected by the boot. And you can just take the boot off with it. I don't really want to. And take this though. So that goes into the choke. There we go. Now, with the fuel tank open, now there shouldn't be much fuel in there, except for there might still be pressure in the tank. The fuel line the fuel that was in the line could want to erupt out. I'd rather it go back into the tank, and then I'll just empty what little is remaining. Now what am I caught on? I bet it's a throttle or something. Uh-oh. Yeah, it's the throttle. It's always the throttle. Oh, no, it's not. It's another hose. Oh, it's the pulse hose. Yeah, we might be taking off the boot as much as I don't want to. Might have to. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Let's see what we have here. Of course, it's not that one. It is for this. No, not even for that side. This is a Tillotson carb. Now, don't quote me on this, but I think that this machine came with two, this Tillotson style, as well as maybe a Nicky or Walbro. I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure. Actually, no, I think it might have been a Walbro, but like I said, don't quote me. I'm not 100% on that one. It's dry. Which would explain why we're not getting that diaphragm. Actually doesn't feel bad at all. We might be able to reuse it. So there's two reasons why this could be dry. Maybe the needle wasn't playing well and wasn't moving, or there is some type of blockage in the filter, but we replaced the filter and tried it, so I don't think so. Some type of line was being crimped and causing there to be something that's not allowing fuel to go through. I didn't quite see that, but we did go all barbaric on it. We'll double check when we put it back in. Or something is in this fuel pump on this side that is causing a problem. It's a little nasty in there. If you pull on stuff like this, you have a really high chance of breaking it, but if you slowly pry it up, you usually can get it to cooperate. Like the gasket feels fine. That feels fine. Well, we're still going to clean it. And we're going to look at the boot. Maybe there's a vacuum leak somewhere. I don't think so, but so this is the low. Let's look at the screws and see if there's anything that's different about them before we continue. Yeah, the low has much longer of a little taper on the end. So I'm going to put this in a carb cleaner and bring you back. Kind of good news. Do you see that fuel line in there? Oh wait, no, it's right there. Notice anything on it? That's a big old crimp mark. So that might have been our problem the entire time, because that carb was clean. I mean, dry, but a clean, which are two good and bad things. But this, I'm not sure which one is worse, having a dirty carb full of fuel or a clean carb with no fuel. That would have been easier to see that if I would have paid attention. So pay attention to the fuel line, but we passed that road now, so I think I'm going to be looking into maybe shortening that line and then making sure we don't crimp again. But I want to put it back in and see what we have to do first. So after seeing that problem, the line was not allowing fuel through. This is probably very unnecessary, but at the same time, probably still a good idea. You know? Can never go wrong with a clean carburetor. Here we go. I mean, I suppose you can clean it wrong, and don't you worry, I have with this, actually this exact style carb. Let me explain why. On here, there's a little clip that goes onto the corresponding piece on the diaphragm. And I've also forgot to put that jet in once too. So it pays to slow down and just let it happen. So there's a little corresponding piece that has to go there. So that's what we are going to be looking out for. And there it is. Okay. Check it. We just pull up on it a little bit and it stays. We're okay. That's important because if you don't, you will have a massive flood. Massive. You will literally see fuel pour out your exhaust or get shot out, depending on if you're trying to pull it over. And you will swear and want to throw it across the room and all kinds of things that may or may not fix the problem. But in reality, it's just that small piece. Now, I probably missed something because I'm talking about not missing something, but I don't know of anything yet, so I'm just going to continue on thinking that I'm doing it right. The fuel line itself seems fine. I went to look at it on my notes. I did not change the fuel line actually on this one. I changed the fuel line on the steel that they gave me because they gave me two at the same time. That's why I remember a fuel line. Let's trust me. I'm the first one to admit if I messed it up. I do not believe so, though. Especially since it's been running very well for quite some time now. It is very odd, though. It would just stop. I did put in the needles, so I don't have to worry about that. I put them two out on the idle and one out on the full throttle, or speaking specifically, two on the low adjustment screw and one on the high adjustment screw. Okay, I'm gonna put this back on. I'm not gonna mess with the idle all that much right there, this whole set screw. Yeah. Unfortunately, the filming of me doing this is pretty hard to do because I know my unfortunate necessity of seeing what I'm doing, and I'm just turning into like a hand model for the P&W YouTube channel. But putting aside my modeling days, I got a lot of it in. The thing you want to do is make sure all your linkages are in, and then when you push it forward, you should be able to get it past this point. There's a little cup that this rides in. That cup moves when you push it the throttle down. From there, you just need to connect the hoses, and I'm going to connect them, or the tubes or the lines. I'm going to connect them, make sure there's no crimping going on, make sure there's enough space. But other than that, just make sure that you put it in the correct order, otherwise it will be a little rough. And trust me, it's not the easiest, but you'll get it done. To ensure I don't have a problem, I'm replacing the fuel line. Just cut the end off, shoved it through the grommet, pulled it through. Now we're good. So I'm gonna put the new filter on, put this all back together, I'll give it a pull. My microphone battery is about to die, so hopefully it doesn't. Apologize if it does, but here we go. Choke. It does need to flow through the line a little bit. Let's give it a little help. I know, duh. To avoid having to pull it like 1,000 times, I put a little fuel down the throat. Let's give it a pull. Apparently I had the linkage that slipped off. It was in there's two little holes. It was in the wrong one and slipped into the one that was keeping it at high throttle all the time. Put it back together, redo the fuel line, because every time you lift the carb up, the fuel line gets pulled up and crimps. I think that's what happened last time. So put it all together, tuned it up a little bit. Okay, there you have it. So I think I'm gonna let it run a little longer, tune up a little bit more. But other than that, that's about it. So if you're having this problem, you know, the broken recoil, buy the Stens one, dry carb, check your fuel line. But other than that, that should wrap this one up. Like PC, subscribe, definitely keep it a thumbs up. Catch you in the next video. Have a good night.